Hello everybody. So today I wanted to go through a bunch of my 2022 favorites, mostly watercolor favorites, so paints and palettes and paper and such. I thought it might be helpful to let you guys know what's been working for me this year and the things that I have fallen in love with. Maybe it will help your watercolor journey or help in buying gifts for your loved ones this year. So the first thing is paint. So I would have to say that I have probably favored Roman Schmall paints over every other paint that I've used this year, with the exception of maybe the Schmincke super granulating paints. So this is my little palette that I have built that I pretty much use in the studio as well as when I go out and about. I put together a whole bunch of paints that are not necessarily all Roman Schmall, but I would say most of them are Roman Schmall because I just love their flow and their pigmentation and just their behavior. I just really enjoy their paints, and they're reasonably priced. So I'm not going to go through every color here, but I just wanted to call out a couple that I have really been enjoying this year, and probably that would be this tint color here. It's kind of this peachy sort of neutrally orange color. It's really useful and I love to use it in sort of washes that aren't too heavy, just sort of like a light wash. Let me grab one of my pieces and I'll show you. So I have been doing a series of paintings that are just sort of these neutral tones, and you can see this color in the background here is that tint. So it really evens out to a very subtle sort of beige color, but it can be amplified by adding other colors to it and depending on how heavy you do the wash. But it's just this really beautiful sort of background subtle color. I think I used it in this one here, so you can see this is a little heavier in here. So on the swatch here it looks really sort of orange, but when you water it back it just gives this beautiful sort of subtle peachy tone that I've really been enjoying. Another favorite I would have to say has been the Aquarius Gray. So this one kind of surprised me. It is a really sort of subtle color, but if you mix it with other colors it just sort of muddies them up a little bit, which I actually kind of like, and it neutralizes them. So I've been kind of using that as a neutral tint to kind of tone down more vibrant colors so that they kind of fit in with my sort of neutral palette that I've been using. Another color from Roman Schmall I've really been enjoying is this Iron Chrome Brown. Now this is a really interesting color as it really shifts from its wet state to its dry state color-wise. So as you know with watercolors, when you lay them down they're kind of bright and vibrant and rich, and then they tend to dry a lot less saturated and a little more washed back. Well, this one does the same thing, but it's just really dramatic. It starts off as this rich reddish brown and then dries to almost a grayish ashy brown with a little bit of red undertone in the granulating area. So it's just a really fun paint to work with. You kind of have to be aware of that when you're mixing colors because it looks so different wet. But it's just, I've really been enjoying using this and mixing it with other colors along the way. Always Mars Black. This is always a favorite. It's super granulating, and mixing a little bit of this color with any other color adds granulation and just deepens colors. So that one has been a really fun one. Of course, their Payne's Gray, super flowy, really rich, very blue leaning, just a really lovely color. Yeah, so I think those are my favorites with the Roman Schmall. I would have to say that my favorite Schmincke super granulating paint is this Volcano Brown. I mean, just look at the granulation in that and the different colors with the red and the almost black in there. It's just an amazingly interesting color, and I really don't know what to expect every time I use it, but it's a really fun color to work with. So that one is in my palette and it stays in there. Oh, the Random Gray. So unfortunately this is only available until they sell out, and it's just for this, you know, it's a mix of all the leftover colors that they have. They kind of mix together and make a random gray. But this year's was so interesting. It granulates and it has a bunch of different colors in it, obviously, because it's all these colors mixed together. But yeah, so this is just my palette that I've been switching and swapping out of throughout the year. But I would say the majority of these are Roman Schmall, just because I love the way that they behave and the price point. I think I have a couple that maybe go up into the 10s, but most of them are around that, you know, $3 to $4 price range, which is really great if you're building your own palette. Really, really love these paints. So I would have to say that my favorite brushes this year, and probably for a while before this year, have been these Jackson's quill brushes. They are synthetic and I just love them. They have a great amount of bounce. You can, even though this looks kind of splayed out here, you can get a really nice tip on there, and they just come in a whole bunch of different sizes. I tend to use the 10-0, the 3-0, and the 0 the most. But I will use these guys if I'm doing sort of washes or big movement strokes. I really like both of these guys as well. So these are definitely a beautiful brush, and they're not terribly expensive as far as brushes go. So I think they're a worthwhile investment if you're shopping on Jackson's to pick a couple up. And they often have sales as well on Jackson's from their own brand. So you can probably just wait till they go on sale and grab a couple then. My other favorite brushes that I've been loving this year, this giant big mop brush that I got. It's similar to the quill idea with this the quill binding here, but it's a completely different brush. It is really fat and juicy, and it does not kind of spring as much, so you don't get a point with this. You just get a nice big fat wash, which is really lovely. This one is just a cheap one off Amazon. It's a couple of dollars, I believe, and you get them in a 2-pack. They're totally synthetic, but great for nice big strokes of color, as well as big washes of water. So they're really great. It doesn't shed at all, which is really great. This one I think has shed a little bit, but it's still pretty good. This one is Creative Inspirations. So these are Creative Mark from Jerry's Artorama. And I don't know that they sell these anymore. I think you can get a pack off Amazon. I think it comes with this. I think I got these two together. And I love these brushes. They give a really sort of straight mark. I do a lot of swatching with them. They don't shed. They're 100% synthetic, but they are just, I think they're really great if you wanted a flat brush. They're really good quality, hold a lot of water, and just perform really well. And then this other specialty brush is the Oval Wash by Princeton. It's the Aqua Elite, and I just love this because it has such an interesting shape. And so when you're laying down color, you can get these interesting marks with it. I've done a couple of process videos where I've used this, and you can really see the distinctive shape that it leaves, as well as just doing big washes of color. You can do that too, but I find it quite a versatile, interesting brush, and it just feels really nice. Great for watercolor. I also just wanted to mention my travel brushes that I keep in my travel case. So this set of 3 I got from Jackson's, and it came like in a little leather pouch, and it is a round, a flat, and a filbert. And I really, these are, they seem huge, but they're actually quite light, and they're not as cumbersome as you would think. It feels real weird at first because these are so chunky, but the top goes on really well. It stays on, does not come off. And they're just kind of nicely weighted to paint. Yeah, so there's that one, there's a flat, and there's a round. So a nice little set of brushes, not terribly cheap. I think they were on sale when I got them on Jackson's, but definitely worth the investment. They're nice and light. They have little breather holes on the bottom here, so you can put them away wet, which I find is almost the only way to do it without fraying the bristles. It always freaks me out when I'm trying to put them away. So the easiest way to put it away is just wet it, shape it, and then slowly pop it on. But yeah, these are really great. This other one, which was a great find off of AliExpress, and this is a quill brush, very similar to my Jackson's quill brush. So this is almost the same size as the 3, I believe, the 3-0 from Jackson's. So I believe it's almost the same size. Actually, it's kind of between these two. So this is the 10-0 and the 3-0. Probably more towards the 3-0. But it works and behaves very similar to these Jackson's brushes. Really lovely that you can just pack it away, and I'm always worried with just packing brushes whether they're going to get damaged, but having a little travel brush like this that you can put the lid on just keeps it nice and compact and great. So I will put a link to that one in the description from AliExpress because it's a great little find. They have different sizes of these as well. I just got this one because it's the size I use most of, but They definitely have bigger and smaller ones. So as far as palettes go, I mostly use these guys, which are the nesting dishes. I got this one off of Amazon, but Jackson's also sells a set. I think they're not as deep as this and maybe a little wider, and I don't believe they have a lid. You can also use the lid too. It kind of balances on here, moves a little bit, but I've used that because I can't be bothered washing the rest of them. So they're really handy. And sometimes I'll just keep stuff in here and I'll come back to them and work with them. And the best thing about it is that they stack, and with the lid on it, it stays dust free. And we get a lot of dust in our house. I end up storing even these types of palettes, I store them upside down when I'm not using them, because they will collect dust, especially if they have paint on them. Oh, and this last one has like a little piece of sponge in here, and I'll talk about this later. But these are great if you're doing like a lot of color swatching or just sort of doing big color washes. You can kind of fill these up with the washes that you want and have, you know, 5 different washes going at the same time. Really, really handy. Love these guys. You can also, I like having them in my hand when I'm painting and then just dipping back to it rather than having it somewhere else. So they're nice and portable. Just a wonderful little palette that I love. And then this guy here, I have 2 of these, and I use these a lot if mixing different colors together. It's easy to sort of have it on a bigger palette. And these are actually just from Daiso, and they're in the bathroom section. So I think they're for, you know, your toothbrush or whatever, but they are great. The water and the paint doesn't beat up on this. It's wonderful. They clean up perfectly. Let me see if I have a clean one. Nope, my other one has paint on it as well. So that's how I tend to roll. So this was upside down in my storage trolley over here. So I tend to just keep paint on them, especially if I've sort of put a lot out, then I can just reuse it. And I use a lot of the same colors from tubes, so I kind of know what these are. So yeah, that's the palettes that I use and that I love. So as far as this one goes, this is just a little piece of kitchen cloth. You can get these at Trader Joe's, you can get them from Amazon. They dry up and they're kind of crinkly, and then you just put water on it and it turns into a little sponge. So what I use these for is for getting moisture off my brushes if they're too wet, or for cleaning my water brushes. So this is really great because you can clean your water brush on here and then just simply wash out the sponge later without having to use up paper towels or throw away too much stuff. So one of the other materials that I use a lot of is washi tape. So I have these washi tapes. You can get them on Amazon, but I got them from AliExpress, and I got it in a big pack of like 12 different widths. And this is really great. It tends to work really well, stay on for a couple of sessions, and then remove from the paper, depending on what paper you use. But I've used it on a bunch of different papers and it comes off really well. Problem is they often come in like 2 meters or 3 meters, which is not a lot. So my other ones that I love are from Daiso. So this actually, I think they come in separate packs. Yeah, I don't think you get these together, but this is a nice big wide one. These are from Daiso and they come off really well on your paper. They're a huge amount, so they last for a long time. And they're, I think, about $1.75 items are a Daiso now. And they used to be $1.50, but now everything's gone up 25 cents. But really good quality, good release. I love those. Another one that I really like is this medical tape, and it's really weird because it's, you know, marketed as breathable and whatever, but this is really great if you're doing a painting in one session. The only problem with this is that if you leave it on for multiple days, the glue will start to adhere to your paper or even your board, and it's really hard to get off without ripping. But it is fabulous for a couple of days sessions, and you just want to make sure your painting is completely dry before you pull it off. But it actually works really, really well, and I used this for a long time. But I found myself sort of starting projects and then coming back to them later, and I would finish it and I couldn't get the tape off. So I would not recommend this for a long-term project. Just if you're kind of taking a day or two to do it, it's perfect. Otherwise I would use the washi tape because it releases way better. Alright, so as far as paper goes, I still have my favorites that I've been consistently in love with, which one of them is this Canson XL. Now, I know this is a 100% cellulose paper, but I really love it just for getting ideas down. It has a really nice texture that is not too pronounced and not too machined. I'm not sure you can see that. So it's kind of a nice organic texture, and I often use this for swatching or just playing with colors and getting ideas out, because it's relatively cheap. But along with this, I also have been using a lot more of this Fabriano watercolor paper. It is 25% cotton, acts a little different to the cellulose, but not much. But I've actually been really enjoying this weird machined texture. So it has a very pronounced texture, and I kind of just like how the paint sort of sits on it, and just having that extra 25% cotton to it, it's a different experience that I have really been enjoying. But again, it's sort of still kind of student grade, and I use it a lot for swatching and just getting ideas out, and very, very reasonably priced. You get a giant stack. I'm not actually sure how much it is. I'll put it in the description for you, but you can get it, I think, from BLICK. But this has been a really nice sort of paper to use and not feel too precious about, so I've really been enjoying that. But I would have to say I have really also been enjoying this BLICK paper. Now this claims to be 100% cotton on here, and it's 32 pages. It has a very similar texture to the Fabriano, if you enjoy that texture. And BLICK actually reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to try it, and I was really glad that I did, because I was really surprised by it. I am not 100% sure if it's 100% cotton. It does say that. I've seen some reviews saying that it definitely isn't, but I feel like it does hold water better, it stays wetter longer, and does perform quite differently to the Canson XL. So in my opinion, this is definitely a step up from that, and very reasonably priced. Again, it's 32 sheets, and I think they run normally around 20 bucks for this. So very, very cost effective. I think if you're just starting out, this is a great paper. If you want to try different techniques like lifting and stuff, this does perform better than the 100% cellulose. So I am not really an authority on whether it's 100% cotton. I'm kind of taking them at their word. Of course, every single paper acts differently, whether they are cellulose or cotton anyway, so it's up to you to decide, but I would definitely give this a try. I've really enjoyed using it. And then the paper that I use mostly for more final pieces is this watercolor. It actually says cold pressed here, but I believe this is a typo, which doesn't give you much confidence, does it? But this Paul Rubens paper is just really lovely. This is 100%, claims to be 100% cotton again, and it does act even more different to the BLICK. I did a review on this paper. I'll put a link in the description below, along with some other cotton papers, and I felt like it performed really, really well. It comes in a block. You can get it in single sheets. I think on Amazon right now you can only get it as a 2-pack, and I still think it says cold pressed, but as long as it's the white one, it's actually hot pressed. And I think that they admitted that they did a run that had this mistake on it, but it's actually hot press paper, because it is super smooth. So I would definitely check this out. This is my go-to affordable 100% cotton paper. I don't use arches at all, so I don't know how it compares to that, and I know that's kind of the standard that everybody loves, but I think this is a really good quality paper, and it performs exactly how I want it to perform for the work that I do. And it's all subjective, you know, everybody wants different things from their paper, but I think this is totally worth a try. So this is my favorite probably for this year. I also wanted to show you my little travel case that I take out and about. So this has all my stuff in it that if I want to go drawing on location or painting on location, I'll take this guy. It's all packed up. I tend to keep everything in here so that I don't have to madly load it if I'm heading out the door. I do use my palette in the studio as well as take with me, so when I open this up I'll show you where that goes. But it's really great. It's pretty compact. It has a little handle so you can just hold it solo, or you can put it in a bag. This is the brand. I don't even know how to pronounce that, so I won't even try. And in here I hold my water dishes, which are great. These are really like low profile water dishes that expand out and have a nice, I like it because it has a huge surface area here so they don't tip over, and you can also adjust sort of the height that you want to use it at. You can have really shallow and just a little bit of water, or you can punch it out just a little. So they're really great, and I have 2 of these, one for clean and one for dirty. Right now they both look dirty, but that's okay. But they're really low profile and they just slip in here, and I also have washi and a clip in here. And then inside it has these removable sleeves here. Now, it did actually have another one that was sewn in here, and I cut it out because it was kind of stupid. Whenever you would try and close this, it would interfere with the zipper. So it was just like a really bad design, but I just cut it out and have not missed it. And it came with two other sleeves that you can Velcro in and out of here. So I just put this in where it fit the best, and it lies down flat. My palette just pops in here. And yeah, so it's really, really great. You have two pockets here. You have big wide ones for bigger pens and pencils in here. And then on this side, this has the smaller ones. I think there's another insert that just has two sides of the smaller one. And then the one that was sewed here that does not have Velcro, I believe it might have been the same as this. I'm not sure where I put it now, but it holds a ton of stuff that you can put in here. I just have some Caran d'Ache and my watercolor brushes in here. And then I have my palette and a bunch of other, it's just a little test piece. I have my water brushes and another big fat brush here. I have two little journals, and I also have another journal that is just one big one. Depending on what I want to do, I might swap these out, but I like having these two different sizes. I have some rulers and shape makers in here. Yeah, so it holds a ton of stuff, and it is really sturdy, and I've just found it great to just grab and go, and yeah, it's just a really good little case. The other things are things that I have in my studio that I really rely on, and one of them is this silicone mat. So this is just a really thin piece of silicone that protects my work surface, and this has been invaluable. It's great because it's a solid white background, so I can film on it, and it cleans up like a dream. You can use pretty much anything on it and it will come off. I'm using this goo remove spray, and that gets anything off of this surface, which has been amazing. I also use this little rolly sticky thing to get, you know, gold flakes and dust and everything off my work surface. Another thing that I have right next to my work area is this sort of, I think it's a dishes mat, so you put it under your dishes to drain them, but I use it to put all my wet brushes on, or if I'm using ink syringes or anything like that, then I leave them on here to dry, and it protects my table, and it also just has a nice soft landing for them, and they stay nice and safe while they're drying. I have been loving this little art cart. I got mine from IKEA, but I know you can get very similar ones on Amazon. This one's just the little version from IKEA, and it is fantastic because when I'm filming stuff, it doesn't rock my table when I wash my brushes because I just have it off to the side on this rolling cart. So it's a really great little 3-tiered storage system that you can move around and fill with whatever you need, and it's been really great. So I hope this was a good little overview of what has been working for me this year. I would love to hear from you guys about what your favorites are or what you just can't live without. Yeah, let me know in the comments. Maybe if you have a video of your own with your favorites, let me know if you have a channel so I can check those out, because I'm always interested to see what items are working well for other artists or creators. So that would be really helpful. And I hope this was helpful to you guys, and I will see you in the next one. Okay guys, bye!